Chapter 493 to 494. Whoa, whoa, whoa. The weird wailing and roaring sound continued to spread throughout Konoha. Byakugan. Byakugan. As soon as the father and son duo heard this wailing sound, both of them subconsciously activated their Byakugan and, similar to Uchiha Sasuke, looked in the direction from where the sound came, but they could notice anything, and it seemed that the source of the sound was too far away from them, which exceeded the upper limit of the range their Byakugan could perceive. Finding nothing, Hisashi deactivated his Byakugan and instructed Niji, "Okay, let's go back to the clan grounds." Niji also deactivated the Byakugan, but different from his father, he said, "Ocha-sama, I don't know why, but I feel an ominous feeling from those sounds." Hisashi nodded with a solemn expression, as he too felt that those sounds contained a wave of evil chakra that is full of madness and destruction, and he has a feeling that something big and ominous is about to happen. Thinking so, Hisashi urged Niji to hurry, and when passing by the three children named Naruto, Sasuke, and Kiyomi, he said to them, "You three, don't wander around here and hurry to your homes." Somewhere in the Konoha market, little Cheyenne, who had just finished attending the academy entrance ceremony not too long ago, is currently walking through Market Street and is on her way to the Hyuga clan grounds. As always, she is wearing her Miko garb, which consists of a white hakui and a pair of red hakama, a pair of white socks, along with sandals. She is holding a stick of dango dumplings in one hand, while her playing with her hair, using her other hand, and looking around to find something interesting. Cheyenne's guard Teruho was helplessly following behind her, holding a lot of snacks and toys that Cheyenne had just bought on a whim. This has become his daily life these days. Whoa, whoa, whoa. At this moment, the wailing sound echoed throughout the village. The moment Cheyenne heard this voice, she stopped, rather stunned. It felt as if she was struck by lightning. The pupils in her eyes changed into a complex geometrical pattern, and her expression changed into a horror one. Teruho noticed Cheyenne's strangeness and quickly asked, "Cheyenne-sama, what's the matter?" Cheyenne, who seemed to be shocked suddenly, recovered, but she no longer had her previous look. She turned around slightly and said to Teruho, I saw a death prophecy," as tears started to stream out of her eyes. Teruho was startled, and he also understood what Cheyenne's reaction means. "So this time, it's my turn, huh?" Beep, 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 beep. Alarm sounds. Before either of the two could say anything, a loud alarm sounded in the entire village. The alarm was a signal that all the villagers must rush towards the refugee, immediately. "This is my duty, and I was always prepared for this." With this determination in his mind, Teruho no longer cared about all the things in his hands, and without any hesitation picked up Cheyenne and rushed towards the refugee, as Kuroto had instructed him. On a cliff not far from Konohagakure, an elite jonin of Kusugakure named Mui, who also happened to be the master of the Hozuki Castle until his disappearance a few months ago, was step by step walking towards a huge cubical black box that had several ghostly faces carved on its four sides. If our protagonist Hyuga Kuroto was here, he would have definitely recognized this huge black box exuding an evil chakra. Because based on the memories from his previous life, Kuroto knows that this box is Kusugakure's hope of reviving their village to their previous glory, their ultimate weapon, the box of ultimate bliss. Behind Mui were four different people wearing individual sheep, cow, dog, and monkey headgear. These four are the elder of Kusugakure's radical faction, and at this moment, when the box of ultimate bliss is about to finally open, the expressions under their headgear are crazed and ecstatic. It is as if the entire shinobi world is about to fall in their hands. Magnificent! Our long-cherished wish is about to finally come true. The revival of Kusugakure to its former glory starts on this day, at this moment. Mui, do not hesitate, Mui. The box is supposed to listen to the gatekeeper. Hurry and wish for the revival of Kusugakure. Your late son must be wishing is as well. There was no hesitation on Mui's face, and he continued to walk forward. Uchiha Shinichi adjusted the clothes of the unconscious Ni Yujito, the Jinchuriki of Nibi. Currently she didn't have much chakra left, as more than 90% of Nibi's chakra sealed, inside her, was siphoned away by the box of ultimate bliss. After she was nearly empty, and Shinichi had adjusted back her clothes, he threw her on top of the giant chimera beast where Hiriko stood akimbo. Immediately he glanced at the Kusugakure shinobi in the distance with a disdainful expression and said, "A bunch of ambitionists who don't even understand their upper limits. Are they also worthy of ruling over the entire shinobi world?" Hiriko, who was standing on top of the chimera beast, caught the unconscious Ni Yujito, then moves his gaze towards the box of ultimate bliss with a curious expression. Unlike Uchiha Shinichi, who has Uchiha clan's arrogance deeply rooted in his bones, Hiriko has the mind and curiosity of a researcher. Therefore, he was quite curious about what the box of ultimate bliss is capable of. He had been curious about it, but no matter how much he tried, he couldn't make a single dent in the box of the ultimate bliss. This alone was more than enough to pique Hiriko's curiosity. Moreover, in the past few months, he has also researched the history and the background of the box of ultimate bliss, and he has learned that this box has existed for several centuries. Its history dates back to the era of Rakuto Sennin. So, he is much curious, and really wants to know what is this box, used to exist in the era of Rakuto Sennin. As Shinichi walked closer to the chimera beast, Hiroko's lips arched in a smile, and he asked casually, "What do you think is hidden inside that box?" Shinichi said, "Whatever is hidden inside the box, I highly doubt if it is capable of destroying Konoha." Hiroko said in a surprised tone, "Oh? You seem to overestimate the strength of Konoha." Shinichi shook his head in disdain and said, "And you seem to underestimate Konoha's strength." After speaking so, he also thought with a smirk, after all, the boss is the ultimate boss of Konoha. As long as he is alive, destroying Konoha is just a pipe dream. Hiroko did not argue with Shinichi. Instead, he said, "Our deal with Kusagakure's radical faction is just that we will open the box of ultimate bliss for them, and in exchange, they will destroy Konoha for us. Just because we made this deal with them doesn't mean that we truly expect them to be able to destroy Konoha, the strongest of the 5 great shinobi villages. The attack from the box of ultimate bliss will just be an appetizer. The main course of the Konoha collapse plan is something else entirely. Even if the 5 Kages have gathered here to deal with the Akatsuki, it would make no difference when he makes his move." With a burst of mocking laughter, Hiroko said, "Let's go. Our mission here is complete. Now let's enjoy the show of Konoha disappearing from the map of this shinobi world." Shinichi said nothing. He just jumped up and landed on top of the chimera beast then, together with Hiroko, and the unconscious Ni Yujido flew away from here. Although, midway he did look back at the sight of the village with a melancholic expression and thought, "Boss, I do hope that you will be able to handle him, because if even you can't, then Akatsuki's Konoha collapse plan will really succeed, and today will really become the day when Konoha disappears from the map of this shinobi world, and the era of the 5 great shinobi villages come to an end." On the side of Kusagakure radical faction, Mui, who has walked closer to the box of ultimate bliss, looked at the hideous face on the box and stopped. At this moment, his mind was in turmoil, and all he could do was remember his son Muku. As a staunch member of the radical faction of Kusagakure, Mui's lifelong wish was to open the box of ultimate bliss, because he hoped to revive the previous glory of Kusagakure. With this objective, he tried opening the box using his son, Muku's chakra, but his son's chakra was too little to be able to open the box. As a result, his son was swallowed by the box. It has been 2 years since that happened, and for these past 2 years, all Mui can do is curse himself for what he did to his son. It was at the moment when his son was sacrificed that he realized that what he cared for most was not the glory of Kusagakure, but his own son Muku. Therefore, all he wants now is to bring his son back. To this end, Mui did not hesitate to follow the elders' advice to cooperate with the Akatsuki organization, nor did he hesitate to sacrifice all the criminals locked in the Hozuki castle with the hope that his wish to see his son can be granted. As Mui raised both his hands, the memories of his son continued to fill his mind, and all the urging of the elders of Kusagakure were completely left behind by him. "Open here and now. O box of ultimate bliss." As Mui yelled, suddenly a layer of black chakra enveloped the box of ultimate bliss. The sounds of whispers and cries full of pain sounded everywhere. "Heed my wish." But Mui continued as several trails of tears started to stream out of his eyes. The whispers in the surroundings increased, and so did the expectations on the faces of the Kusagakure elders under their masks. Mui continued word by word. "Let me see my son Muku. O box of ultimate bliss. Heed my wish." Instantly, an echo sounded from the box, and the black chakra enveloping the box turned purple. "What?" the cowhead elder exclaimed in shock. "Have you gone mad, Mui?" The sheephead elder shouted in shock. "Kusagakure vanished from my heart long ago. Yes, from the day I lost Muku 2 years ago." "You traitor!" the monkey head elder shouted in anger. "How dare you betray the village?" the dog head elder also added in anger. The 4 Kusagakure elders of the radical faction were shocked. Never did they expect such a problem to arise at the final moment. Never did they expect the guardian of the box of ultimate bliss, who had always dreamed of the revival of Kusagakure to original glory, would suddenly betray them at the final moment. Angered by the betrayal, they immediately rushed toward Mui, hoping to kill him and change the wish made by him. But before they could make it close enough, another loud wailing echo resounded following, which the joints of the strange face carved on the side of the box of ultimate bliss, facing Mui, glowed in orange light, and one by one all fell to the ground too, and the face of a black beast carved into the box immediately appeared before everyone. The beast opened its mouth wide open to reveal a big hole that seemed to hide the darkness within. It felt as if the mouth was a connection to a different dimension, where only the darkness of madness lurks. When the hole opened, a wave of evil chakra appeared out of the box of ultimate bliss. All 5 people, including Mui and the 4 Kusagakure elders, were stunned and felt almost condensed, substantial malice coming out of the box of ultimate bliss. But soon, the malice disappeared, and lone figures wearing ragged and torn clothes staggered out of the darkness. Konohagakure, inside Hokage office. The representative of the conservative faction of Kusugakure bent forwards and apologized to Sandaime Hokage. Please forgive our incompetence, Hokage Dano. We were unable to delay Mui from making his move until the day after tomorrow as per your requirement. Sandaime sighed and said while waving his hand to let the man stand up. The ones bound to come will eventually come. You were able to delay up to today is already more than I could have asked for. So there is no need for the apology, Musan. And after a pause, he continued, what about the information on the box of ultimate bliss that I asked for? Is it really all lost? The representative, named Mu, sighed and nodded. I assure Hokage-sama that we did not hide anything. All the meager information we had about the box of ultimate bliss has already been passed to Hokage-sama. Sandaime took a deep breath and released a puff of smoke, then said, that is to say, neither the conservatives nor the radicals know what actually is inside that box. Mu sighed and nodded with a solemn expression. Back in the day, Kusugakure tried all means to open the box, but nothing worked, and in the past few decades thousands of people have been sacrificed to it by the radical faction. All the criminals locked inside the Hozuki castle have also been sacrificed to that box, but still, nothing worked. Therefore, we will believe that whatever is inside that box is really ominous and endanger the existence of the entire shinobi world. So, when dealing with it, please take it extremely seriously. The figure that staggered out of the box of ultimate bliss walked step by step and slowly came towards Mui. Ota-san, said the figure as he looked up at the man in front of him. Muku, forgive me, I was wrong. Looking at the familiar figure in front of him, Mui shed tears of joy. At this moment, he was not an elite jonin of Kusugakure, nor was he the master of the Hozuki castle. He was just a guilty father who had no trace of keenness or vigilance against his son. He was endlessly joyed that he finally got to see his son again. This guilt and joy caused him to ignore the insidiousness and the madness hidden within the eyes of his son. Whoosh! Just as Mui was preparing to step forward and embrace his son, who had finally come out of the box of ultimate bliss, Muku, who was slowly staggering forward, suddenly accelerated and rushed towards Mui at an incredibly fast speed. The scene changed so quickly that Mui, despite being an elite jonin of Kusugakure, had no opportunity to react. Slash. And the next thing Mui felt was a sharp burning pain coming from his chest. He looked down and saw that his son's right hand was inserted inside his chest. Blood was spurting out of the bloody hole and sprinkled on Muku's tender face, relished it deeply, making him look like a monster in the skin of a child. In shock and realization, Mui staggered backward and spurted out a mouthful of blood. Puff! Then asked with some difficulty, Why? Muku looked up and said, Yes, Ota-san, you were wrong. You shouldn't have let me out of the box. Then he stretched out his tongue and licked the blood splashed on his face, showing a look of enjoyment and ecstasy. It's the long-lost taste of sweetness. You are not my son. You are not Muku. With a shocked and unwilling expression, Mui slowly collapsed to the ground. Perhaps, muttered Muku with a smirked awl while licking the blood on his hand. Not far away, the 4 Kusugakure elders were shocked upon witnessing the scene in front of them. Their legs softened and they collapsed on the ground in horror. There is no doubt that the box of ultimate bliss did not fulfill Mui's wish. What came out of the box was not Mui's son Muku, but a true monster in Muku's skin. At this moment, they also realized that the dream for which they gave up everything, even their humanity, was nothing more than an illusion. The revival of Kusugakure to its former glory was just a mirror flower water moon. Muku coldly glanced at the 4 Kusugakure elders who were too terrified to do anything. He wrinkled his nose and sniffed, then immediately turned away with a disgusting expression. A bunch of corrupt and greedy old fools. Even the smell of your blood makes me sick. Next, he turned his gaze to the other side to look in the direction of Konoha, where he could sense a whole lot of fear and deliciousness, and soon muttered in appreciation. I think I will go that way. With that said, suddenly a palpating evil black chakra engulfed Muku's young body, and instantly his body distorted and morphed. Arms distorted and lengthened to reveal huge brown claws and arms covered in black feathers. Legs bulged and grew bigger. A big mouth with 2 pairs of sharp white fangs, a very slender stomach, a long black tail, and a pair of giant black wings like that of a crow, giving it the appearance of a true monster. Roar. With a loud roar, the monster waved his right hand, producing a sharp air current. Instantly the 4 elders of Kusugakure were affected. Their masks all broke and collapsed on the ground far away. 3 died instantly, while only 1 was still left alive and not so injured, but he was too scared to be able to do anything and could only shiver in horror in the presence of that monster. After dealing with the 4 elders, the monster no longer cared about them, just jumped upwards and landed on top of the box of ultimate bliss. Then, using his huge and sharp claws, the monster grabbed the box of ultimate bliss, opened his wings, and accompanied by a strong wind, he flew in the direction of Konohagakure. Konohagakure. As soon as the sound of alarm bells rang, the entire village became extremely noisy. The streets were filled with civilians wanting to get to the refugee as fast as possible. The noise of children crying in fear, and the noise of adults arguing in anger acted like oil in the fire, making the village very chaotic. But because the village has already conducted several evacuation drills in the past month or so, therefore, Konoha shinobi soon began to spontaneously maintain order, calm the panicked populace, and organize the villagers to enter the refugee in an orderly manner. At the same time, many elite Konoha shinobi moved towards the center of the village to gather near the Hokage building, waiting for Hokage-sama orders. On the outer wall, the Konoha shinobi responsible for patrol duty watched the surroundings with utmost vigilance. Although everyone has a bad premonition that the village is under attack, so far, no one who the enemy is, from which direction they are attacking and how exactly are they attacking, therefore, the patrol has to watch over everything keenly. Suddenly, a Hyuga shinobi, who is part of the outer patrol, pointed in the distance and alerted everyone. At 11 o'clock, there is an unknown object approaching the village at a horrifying speed. Everyone immediately looked in the direction pointed by the Hyuga shinobi, and they all noticed a small black spot that suddenly appeared on the horizon in front of the setting sun that is slanting westward. And the strange thing was that the small black thing was really approaching the village at a horrifying speed. An Inuzuka shinobi asked, "What is that?" And Aburame answered with a thoughtful expression, "From here it appears to be some kind of insect, or perhaps a bid." But the Hyuga clansman immediately denied, "If it's an insect or a bird, then its size is too exaggerated. And don't you people sense chakra fluctuations from that thing? Not only is its chakra as exaggerated as a bijou, but it is of a vile and evil nature. It's definitely an enemy." The Nara shinobi, who is also part of the outer patrol, also noticed this, because as that object was approaching closer and closer, everyone was able to sense vile and evil chakra. He immediately said to the Yamanaka shinobi standing next to him, "Inoryu, immediately report the exact information Hyuga-san dictated to Inoichi-sama." The Yamanaka named Inoryu nodded, "Got it," and immediately reiterated everything back to the intelligence base using his Yamanaka jutsu. And while the Yamanaka was transferring back the information, the Nara said to the others around him, "Everyone, it might take a few minutes for the reinforcements to arrive. Until then, it is upon us to keep that thing occupied here. By any means, we cannot allow that thing to get past us and enter the village, else the damage done would be tremendous. So whether for our families, for our clans, for our village, or for the will of fire, we must keep that thing occupied here." Everyone nodded. For the family, for the clan, for the village, and for the will of fire. Boom! But before they could start implementing the combat strategies, the huge monster suddenly accelerated and directly slammed into the outer wall of Konoha and let out a sharp, frightening roar. Smoke and dust filled the sky, wood and stones splashed everywhere. And in the area where the monster slammed, a large section of the outer wall collapsed to reveal tens of meter-wide holes. In the gravel pile, the patrol ninjas who had barely escaped with some serious injuries looked at the huge monster hovering in the sky with a dull expression and murmured in horror, "This thing, we can't deal with such a monster." Just when all hope seems to have been lost, a loud voice echoed that seemed to give everyone a sense of security echoed in the surroundings. Summoning jutsu. Poof. With a surge of white smoke, a giant toad leaped out and rushed toward the monster that was raging near the outer wall. This toad is none other than Gamabunta, the toad summon of the toad Sannin Jiraiya. And as soon as Gamabunta rushed out of the cover of white smoke, he waved his giant tanto towards the monster, whose back was facing towards Gamabunta. Slash. Gamabunta's slash was extremely fast and unexpected, yet the moment his tanto was about to cut the monster, without even bothering to turn, just leaped high and instantly avoided Gamabunta's attack. Jiraiya, who was standing on the head of Gamabunta, exclaimed in surprise, "Huh? Did the monster just dodge the attack at such close proximity?" Gamabunta was also surprised, not because his attack was dodged, but because he recognized who exactly is this monster, and exclaimed in shock, "Satori, damn, how could this monster be revived? I am afraid we are all in very big trouble." Root base. All of a sudden, a glass crashing sound resounded in the laboratory, and the experimental material that was in Fujin's hand a moment ago slipped his hand and was destroyed. Fujin frowned because he could feel his hand shake all of a sudden, which was unnatural. Looking around, he noticed that this wasn't the case just for him, but a lot of similar scenes appeared in the laboratory. This means that it wasn't just his hand that shook, but the entire laboratory shook for some reason. At this time, Orochimaru, who was not too far away, also stopped the experiment halfway. His face had an annoyed expression because of the sudden interruption. At the same time, there was also a curiosity as to why did the laboratory shake all of a sudden. It must be known that this laboratory is hundreds of meters underground and is reinforced with several Earth-style jutsu. Therefore, ordinary explosions on the ground above do not affect the laboratory even a little bit. Therefore, both Fujin and Orochimaru can judge that something massive and terrible must have happened on the ground above, which can even shake the laboratory located so deep underground. Shimura Danzo, who was patrolling in the corridor, also stopped upon feeling the tremors and had a thoughtful look on his face. Not long after, two root shinobi, one of whom is Bishojo-chan, hurriedly appeared in front of Danzo, and one of them reported, "Danzo-sama, a giant monster is attacking the village and has already gotten past the outer wall after destroying a large section of it. It is suspected that this is the start of Akatsuki Organization's revenge." Bishojo-chan added, "Danzo-sama, Root Force has assembled and is awaiting your orders to act." Danzo didn't even bother to think and immediately ordered, "On standby." Bishojo-chan was taken aback. She didn't seem to expect that Danzo would give them the order to stand by. For a moment, she felt as if she misheard and said lightly, "Danzo-sama, the monster has already invaded the village." Danzo's expression sank. "Are you questioning my order?" Bishojo-chan immediately shook her head and apologized. No, Danzo-sama. It's just that the villag." But Danzo did not allow Bishojo-chan to continue and directly ordered, "Withdraw." "Interesting. Now I am more curious about Bishojo-chan," thought Fujin, who looked at the entire conversation, "but it appears that I cannot get any information out of her, for now at least." But restraining, he looked up at Danzo and questioned, "As an elder consultant of Konoha, the village is attacked by the Akatsuki Organization, and you are not going to do anything about it, Shimura-san?" Danzo said in as a matter-of-fact tone, "The old man has more important things he must do." Futen smiled disdainfully under his Fujin mask and thought to himself, "You dare not show up when the village is facing crisis, and you still want to be the Hokage?"